It wasn't until that final phone call with Asher Hayes, right before I died, that I realized how deeply he hated me. "Lila," he said, his voice flat and cold over the line, "every cent you've ever thrown at me makes me sick to my stomach. Every breath I take in your house feels filthy. Only when you're dead will the humiliation you've heaped on me finally disappear." When I opened my eyes again, I was 21. My parents sat across the living room, faces warm with relief and satisfaction, proposing that Asher and I get engaged first, then marry once we graduated and moved back home. I stared at Asher's cold, handsome face, every line of it taut with suppressed resentment and reluctance, and smiled softly. I turned to my parents. "Mom, Dad, people date freely these days. Forced arranged marriages are totally outdated garbage, and aren't they, like, legally unenforceable anyway?" The grand crystal chandelier cast sharp, bright light over every face in the room. My mom squeezed Maggie's hand, eyes glistening. "It's settled, then. The two of them get engaged first, then move out to Chicago together. Don't you worry about tuition, we've got it covered. Once they graduate and come home, they'll get married." "We're not old-fashioned about this," my dad cut in. "We don't expect him to marry into the family and check every box, but Lila's our only child. Their first kid has to take the Bennett name. That's non-negotiable, right?" Maggie, our longtime housekeeper and close family friend, flushed with excitement. She nodded over and over, repeating the same lines like a prayer. "Whatever you say. Asher hitting the absolute jackpot by marrying Lila, our family's luck has turned." My dad nodded, pleased with her answer. "We'll cover the whole engagement party, do it up right. Asher, your family now." I sat beside my dad, my gaze fixed on Asher across the table. His back was straight as a board, still holding that cold, aloof posture he always did, the same quiet pride that had made him Aurora Bay's most talked-about campus heartthrob. Only the slow tightening of his fist gave him away. The Asher 10 years from now would have smiled, warm and polished, at a question like this. But this younger version only gave a quiet, flat in response to my mom's eager plans, his eyes fixed on the rim of his water glass like he was studying the water stains on it. "Asher? What do you think?" my dad asked again. He finally lifted his eyes, forcing a stiff, barely there smile. "Whatever you and Mrs. Bennett think is best," he said evenly. My parents wrote off his stiffness as shyness, young and flustered by the attention. Only I, someone who'd crawled back from hell, could see the boiling humiliation and cold hatred seething under his perfect mask. Maggie had brought Asher to our house when he was in 8th grade. Before that, she'd worked for us for 3 steady years, quiet and hardworking. My mom liked her a lot. When she found out Maggie had a son at Aurora Bay High School, they'd bonded immediately, mostly because I was a total troublemaker who never hit the books. When my mom heard Asher was top 3 in his class, she'd had the idea to hire him as my private tutor. The first time I saw Asher, he was in his Aurora Bay High uniform, back straight, eyes cool and sharp. There was a stubbornness about him none of the other boys I knew had. One look, and I'd thought he was different. After that, I'd begged my parents to let him move in with us, said I felt bad for Maggie living alone, and that it'd be easier for tutoring. When I found out his dream was to get into an Ivy League school, I'd begged them again to fund it, to send him to all those expensive summer camps and research programs. By our sophomore year of college, he hadn't gotten into an Ivy, but he'd been accepted to the University of Chicago. Not wanting to be apart from him, I'd used my dad's deep pockets to arrange a transfer to a diploma mill in the same city, one you could get into if you paid enough. After that, everything fell into place. We moved to Chicago for school together, graduated, came home, got married. He walked right into our family company and slowly took over the business. Until our 5th year of marriage. He'd called me, frantic, telling me to bring an urgent contract to the golf course out on the edge of town. Halfway down the winding mountain road, my brakes went out. Panicked and shaking, I'd dialed his number. He picked up. In the background, I heard the soft whoosh of a golf club cutting through air. Baby. My brakes, they're not working. I'd screamed into the phone, sobbing. There was a short silence. Then I heard him snort. My blood turned to ice. Lila, he'd said, slow and cold, every cent you've ever thrown at me makes me sick to my stomach. Every breath I take in your house feels filthy. Only when you're dead will the humiliation you've heaped on me finally go away. Only then can I get my dignity back. Layla. I hope in your next life, you never meet me. The dial tone blared in my ear at the exact same moment my car crashed through the guardrail and tumbled down the cliff. I snapped back to the present. The crystal chandelier glowed warm and bright. I heard my dad's enthusiastic voice filling the room. I already had a friend look at apartments. Right by Hyde Park, 2 blocks from you, Chicago. Close enough to both his school and yours. I'm flying over next month to furnish the whole place, hire a reliable housekeeper. Lila's got that thing where she misses home-cooked meals, can't have her living on burgers every day. Oh, and Asher, you'll need to get your Illinois driver's license sorted out as soon as you land. I'll buy you a car when I'm out there. Range Rover? Or Porsche? Layla likes Porsches. He was beaming, like he could already picture us supporting each other and thriving halfway across the state. Maggie rubbed her hands together beside him, stammering out thank yous, equal parts grateful and flustered. Asher sat quietly in the armchair, back straight, his face cold and blank as usual. When my dad finished, he looked at Asher fondly. Anything else you need, son? Just say the word. I want you and Lila to feel right at home over there. Don't be shy. Asher lifted his eyes, his cool gaze unusually earnest. He chose his words carefully. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. You've thought of everything. Only, there's still 2 months before classes start. I applied for a summer academic program run by Chicago's economics department. It's a really rare opportunity. I was wondering if I could go over early for it? He hurried to add, like he was afraid my dad would say no. The program's right there in Chicago. Going early would let me get settled, get used to things. That way I can take better care of Lila when she gets there, instead of scrambling when classes start. My dad's face lit up with approval. He was just about to say yes. Dad. I set down the glass I'd been holding. The sharp clink cut through the warm, happy hum of the room. I've been thinking. Every eye in the room snapped to me. Asher's brow furrowed immediately. A flicker of annoyance crossed his face. He spoke first, cutting in. Registration for that program closed weeks ago. And the course load is heavy, all seminars and project work. I won't have time to look after Lila. Mr. Bennett, I think Lila should wait until the semester starts. She can brush up on her study skills here first. If she jumps into living alone in a new city too fast, she might struggle. There it was. So thoughtful, every word framed like he was looking out for me. But really, every word meant don't come bother me. I acted like I hadn't heard him. I didn't even glance his way. I met my parents' confused stares, and slowly smiled. Mom, Dad, people date freely these days. Forced arranged marriages are totally outdated garbage, and aren't they, like, legally unenforceable anyway? Dead silence fell over the living room. My dad's smile froze. My mom's mouth fell open in surprise. Maggie went white as a sheet. She stared at me, then at her son, her lips trembling but no sound coming out. And Asher? I'd been watching him out of the corner of my eye. That perfect, cold mask he always wore cracked, right then and there. His usually calm eyes flashed with shock, sharp and sudden, followed by a flicker of cold understanding. After a few seconds of dead quiet, my dad was the first to recover. He frowned. Lila, don't be ridiculous. This isn't some forced marriage. Even if you're upset, you don't say things like that. Asher's right. He goes early to get settled, the program's intense. You'd be alone in that apartment, and you've never lived on your own before. How could your mom and I possibly relax? I looked at the approval and warmth in his eyes as he spoke about Asher, and felt a flicker of pity, coming back from the dead like this. Dad. You have no idea the ungrateful backstabber sitting across from you. 10 years from now, after he takes full control of our company, he'll erase you like a parasite he's been stuck with for over a decade. Maggie's voice jolted me out of my thoughts. She grabbed Asher's arm, her face pale. Asher. Did you upset Lila somehow? Apologize. Right now. Her eyes were red with panic, pleading with me like she was terrified my sudden tantrum would ruin the fast track to success her son had worked so hard for. Asher took a deep breath. His cool eyes locked on mine, swirling with annoyance at having his plans derailed, and tightly leashed irritation. But his voice was soft, placating. Lila, don't be like this. I'll tell you as soon as the program ends, okay? You won't have to wait long. There it was. So practiced. In our last life, he'd used that same patient, indulgent tone to make me swallow every bitter thing without complaint. Back then, I'd been so lovesick. Even a crumb of kindness from him and I'd ate it all up. Everyone, quiet. Let Lila speak. My mom patted my dad's arm gently, her worried eyes fixed on my face. She was the only one who'd picked up that something was wrong, instead of jumping to scold or soothe me. When she heard I'd died, Mom must have been heartbroken. I couldn't hold it back anymore. I crossed the room in 3 steps and threw myself into her arms, squeezing her tight around the waist. Mom. I started with quiet sobs, then broke down completely, crying hard. My mom froze for a second, then hugged me back just as tight. Her warm hand stroked my back over and over, her own voice thick with tears. Lila, it's okay. Mom's here. Tell me what's wrong. Did someone hurt you? I shook my head into her shoulder, just crying, like I could cry out all the fear and regret of my last life. After a while, the storm of emotion calmed down to shaky little hiccups. I lifted my head from her shoulder, eyes puffy and red, and looked at the assorted faces around the room. My gaze slid past Asher's perfect, cold face, the one that made my bones turn cold, and settled on my parents' worried, confused expressions. I wiped my face roughly with my sleeve and stood up straight. My voice was thick and nasal, but every word was clear, ringing out in the quiet room. Dad, Mom, you're reading way too much into this. Asher and I are just classmates. We're not even really friends. After all, Asher had never once called me his girlfriend to anyone else. So, I'm not transferring to Chicago. And I'm not getting engaged to Asher. I'm staying here. And one more thing. I want Asher to move out. I'm 20 years old, I'm not a kid anymore. And with this whole thing you just sprung on everyone? What are people gonna think of me? I watched Asher with a sharp, vengeful little thrill. He thought my money insulted his dignity? He thought every second in my house felt dirty? Fine. I was giving him his dignity back. I was giving him fresh air. Asher was young and proud. After what I said, he spat out Lila, don't regret this, then dragged his mom out the door without looking back. I would never regret this. I was waiting for the day he did. Once they were gone, I turned to my dad. Dad, can we cut off all funding for Asher? We've paid for 2 years of his college already. We've done more than our fair share. He shouldn't get our money for UChicago too. My dad frowned, studying me. Is this a tantrum, or are you serious? Serious. I don't like him anymore. Stop treating him like your future son-in-law. Shame, my dad said, shaking his head. He's smart. Driven. Good material. You never took an interest in this stuff, so I thought I'd groom him to help you. Even if he's not your husband, we could sign a contract. Have him come work for the company when he graduates. What do you think? No, I said it flat out. He's got way too much pride. He probably thinks funding is an insult. I think he'd rather make it on his own. Why throw good money after bad? If he resents us for it, we're just planting a ticking time bomb under our own roof. My mom nodded, frowning slightly. That boy, he's always been a little too cold. Too hard around the edges. I struck while the iron was hot. Dad, instead of always trying to groom some outsider, why don't you think about turning me into a proper heir? My dad laughed, amused. I tried grooming you. You never wanted to learn. If you weren't so, he looked me up and down, then shook his head, deciding not to finish the insult. Fair enough. The last few years, all I'd cared about was getting Asher to notice me. I looked him dead in the eye. If you promise not to give Asher another cent, I'll intern at your company the summer after my sophomore year. Give me, a job in HR assistant level. I'd originally said executive assistant, but that meant working right under my dad's nose. HR felt safer. My dad studied me for a second, then clapped his hand on the table. Deal. And Asher? He'd find out soon enough. Without me, without my family's money. His precious dream was nothing but bubbles. I blocked Asher and all his little yes-men friends on chat. When I saw the group chat I'd muted for over 3 years, *Princess and her ride-or-die chaos crew*, I felt a sharp twist of guilt. Back when I first started chasing Asher, my friends had mocked him non-stop, sharp and snobby about where he came from. I'd gotten so mad I muted the group, and slowly drifted away from all of them. It wasn't until now that I realized, after all those years revolving around Asher, I didn't have a single fake friend left to gossip with. On a whim, I unmuted the chat and typed, "Hi." Almost instantly, a cartoon cat profile picture replied. Then the screen flooded with exclamation points. I bit my lip and typed, "I kicked Asher to the curb." The flooding stopped. 2 seconds later, an even denser wall of exclamation points exploded across my screen. Stacy, are you body snatched? Or did someone spike your drink and you finally came to your senses, *? I laughed, holding my phone. *, want proof? Pine Ridge Resort. My treat, *. The group name instantly changed to Lila finally got her brain back. A chorus of replies popped up underneath. Be there. Don't be late, *. Our car pulled into the Pine Ridge parking garage. Stacy spotted something first and hissed. Uh-oh. Lila, isn't that Asher and his little crew? I thought you said. She gave me a threatening look. If I said I'd come here for him, she'd turn the car around right now. I leaned over to look. It was Asher and his roommates. After getting his UChicago offer, he'd filed to withdraw from our program here. He was probably here to say goodbye and celebrate with them. Ugh. Everywhere I turn, this guy. I texted my dad immediately, telling him to send someone to take back the Audi he'd lent Asher. Asher spotted our flashy car too. His brow twitched, almost too faint to see. Gross. Should have checked my horoscope before leaving the house. I hung up the phone, not bothering to hide my disgust. Wanna go somewhere else? My friends exchanged looks. Vivian pulled the car keys out sharply. Why would we leave? Aurora Bay only has, 3 nice places. We're supposed to run and hide just 'cause Asher Hayes is here? Come on. Let's go. We walked toward the elevators, swinging our new season bags, laughing and talking. We ran right into Asher's group by the elevator doors. Or maybe they'd been waiting there on purpose. Jake, the guy next to him, saw us coming and nudged Asher with his elbow, grinning. Nice one, Ash. We just got here and she shows up. Girls obsessed. Another guy snickered. For real. Layla's down bad for you, man. Follows you everywhere. Asher's face stayed neutral. He looked at me, annoyed. Layla. What are you doing here? I crossed my arms, not even bothering to look him in the eye. You own this resort? You can be here, but I can't? I nodded at the opening elevator doors. Move it, loser. Asher's jaw tightened. Layla. I walked right past him and stepped into the elevator first. My friends filed in after me, heads held high, not even glancing at his group as they passed. The elevator opened onto the grand, gleaming lobby. We slowed down on purpose, and sure enough, we watched Asher walk straight up to the front desk. He pulled a card out of his wallet and handed it to the attendant, voice flat. For deluxe suites, please. I smiled, nudging my friends to watch the show. Pine Ridge was one of the fanciest resorts in Aurora Bay. A regular room was over $1,000 a night. The deluxe suites he wanted? $5,000 each, easy. Once I turned 18, my dad had gotten me my own card. After that, Asher had used my supplementary card for everything. But I'd cancelled that card yesterday. The front desk attendant swiped it, then swiped it again. Her polite smile faltered a little. She looked up, still smiling professionally. I'm sorry, sir. This card was declined. Would you like to try a different card, or a different payment method? Asher's calm facade shattered. Jake and the others froze behind him. My friends delivered perfectly. Vivian let out a loud, dramatic huh. Wow. I didn't know Pine Ridge let just anyone walk in these days. You gonna try and freeload, buddy? Asher whipped around to stare at me, his eyes sharp as ice, blazing with humiliation and disbelief. Lila, he said, his voice tight with rage. This is your idea of revenge? I crossed my arms, meeting his gaze with a cold little smile. It's my card. I can cancel it whenever I want. What, you got so used to spending other people's money you thought it was yours? He stared daggers at me for a few seconds, then huffed a cold laugh. He turned away and stepped off to the side, pulling out his phone. We couldn't hear what he was saying, but we saw his jaw clench tight as he spoke into the phone, short and sharp. He hung up, stood there for a minute, then walked back to the front desk. He didn't try the card again. He just pulled up Apple Pay on his phone and held it up to the scanner. A soft beep. Payment successful, the attendant said. That comes to $19,996. Here are your room keys. Asher grabbed the keys without another glance at us. He walked straight for the elevators, his friends trailing after him, exchanging awkward looks. His back was stiff and straight, like he was forcing himself not to run. Damn, Vivian said, twirling her sunglasses. Guess our golden boys got more money than we thought. 20 grand, without batting an eye. I smiled, not saying anything. Honestly, Maggie would have been better off raising a deadbeat. At least deadbeats don't stab you in the back. Come on, I said, looping my arms through Stacy and Vivian's. Let's not let some nobody ruin our trip. The strawberry greenhouse was warm and sweet-smelling. Stacy and I had just picked half a basket when we saw 3 figures walk in through the entrance. Stacy and I exchanged a look. Annoyance and disgust written all over both our faces. Great. These guys again. Wait, I squinted. They didn't look like they were here to pick strawberries. They looked like they were here to pick a fight. Jake led the way. The other 2 hung back, muttering to him like they were trying to talk him out of it, but he shook them off. He marched straight up to us and blocked our path. He crossed his arms, chin tilted up, all self-righteous. Layla. Don't you think you're taking this too far with Ash? I rubbed the bridge of my nose. Ugh. I'd spoiled these guys rotten by fawning over Asher for so long. Who would have thought the guys who'd once kissed up to me every chance they got would turn around and talk to me like this? Turns out you can't give people too much leeway. He kept going, like he had every right. First you cancel his card, now you're taking the car back? Ash isn't some guy who married into your family for money you can push around. Isn't this whole financial blackmail thing a little? He trailed off, leaving the ugly implication hanging. Oh. So that's what this was about. My dad moved fast. The Audi was already gone. Asher wasn't here 'cause he was mad. He was here 'cause he had to give back the keys. Look, Lila, it's not like we're trying to meddle, Jake said. We all saw how you chased him all these years. You put in the work. It wasn't easy. He shifted gears, all concerned and warning now. But you're this close to getting what you want, and you pull this? You really want to push him away for good? You want to make him hate you? He spread his hands, like he was doing me a favor. Come on. A guy like Ash, looks, brains, future? You lose him, and you'll never find another guy on his level, not if you search every corner of the state. Take the win. Let it go. The other two roommates shifted awkwardly, tugging on Jake's arm, but he shook them off. Stacy looked like she'd swallowed something rotten. She leaned over to me. How did you put up with this mediocre but delusional bro for so long? Jake's face snapped to her, furious. I stepped forward, putting myself between them. Jake. You're this worked up on his behalf. What's in it for you? He paying you to run his errands? Ugh. You'd never get it. You only know how to throw money at people to put them down. You don't understand brotherhood. Is that so? Layla. Asher's low voice cut through the greenhouse from the entrance, stopping me before I could snap back. He stormed over, jaw tight. He glanced at his roommates first, annoyed, then fixed me with a cold, disgusted look. You really think throwing a tantrum like this is gonna make me cave? Make me take you to Chicago early? Grow up, Lila. When are you gonna stop being so childish? I looked at him, at that unshakable certainty in his eyes, that absolute belief that everything I did was just to cling to him. I pointed toward the path outside. See that road? Get lost. 2 weeks later. The sun streamed bright through the glass conservatory of our house. I was trimming a bush of bright, blooming roses with pruning shears. Lila. A low, furious roar came from the doorway. Asher stood there, chest heaving, like he'd run all the way here. His hair was messy, his usually cool eyes blazing with anger. You told your dad to cut my funding? He marched right up to me, face tight with accusation. I set down the shears, picked up a handkerchief, and slowly wiped the dew off my fingers before I looked up at him, feigning surprise. Oh. You got the email from Chicago already? My calm tone made his fists clench. Lila, your dad agreed to keep funding me because you liked me. Because he saw me as his future son-in-law. Now that you don't like me anymore, why would he waste the money? I stepped closer, looking him dead in the eye. Chicago doesn't come cheap, especially for out-of-state students. For years, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Our money doesn't grow on trees. You're being ridiculous. His voice rose, sharp with panic and frustration, like I had no idea how badly I'd messed things up. Do you have any idea how serious this is? They're putting a financial hold on my admission. No tuition payment, no spot in the program. All my plans, they're over. So? I tilted my head. What does that have to do with me? He froze, chest heaving like he was fighting not to yell. After a second, he took a deep breath and softened his voice, backing down. Layla, come on. Don't do this. Okay? His voice dropped, low and coaxing. I'll take you with me when the program starts. I promise. Just stop with the games. Please? I stared at him, then laughed. Asher. Are your ears just for show? Or do you only hear what you want to hear? My smile dropped. I spoke slow and clear, every word sharp. I'll say it one last time, I'm not going to Chicago. I'm staying here. Asher went pale. His fake, gentle mask shattered, replaced by pure disbelief. You're staying? You already filed to withdraw from our program here to transfer. How can you stay? Lila, don't joke about this. Are you gonna drop out and redo college? Come on. I'm sorry, okay? I've been distant. I know that. I'm sorry. He actually thought I was sabotaging myself just to throw a tantrum, just to get his attention. I picked up the pruning shears again, holding them up to the light, my voice light. Who said I filed to transfer out? His pupils blew wide. I told you that night, in my living room. I'm staying here. I turned back to the roses, my voice puzzled, like I couldn't believe what I was saying. Asher, you didn't actually think I was just mad, did you? You didn't go and withdraw from school on your own, did you? Snick. A stray branch fell to the floor. Dead silence behind me. A few seconds later, I heard him make a sharp, strangled sound. I turned around. All the color had drained from his face. He was paper white, his lips trembling. Those usually calm, controlled eyes were wide with horror, with slow, dawning despair. If he hadn't been standing there, I would have cheered. But I didn't say anything. I just picked up the thorny rose I'd just cut off and tossed it into the waste bucket beside me. Layla. You're lying to me. He lunged forward and grabbed my wrist tight, like I was his last hope. I wrenched my hand away, hard and fast, just like he'd hung up on me that day, right after saying all those terrible things. Asher. You've always hated me, haven't you? Or maybe you've always been jealous of me. Jealous that I'm some spoiled rich kid who never studies, but has everything you'll spend your whole life fighting for. The words cut right through his pride, sharp as a knife. His face twisted. That cold, perfect mask he'd worn for years shattered completely. He stared at me, stunned, then started scrambling to deny it. I didn't. I never. I don't hate you. I could never be jealous of you. I love you, Lila. I love you. Must have been hard, huh? I said softly. All those years, putting on a nice front for me. I'm giving you your freedom now. Isn't that what you've always wanted? I watched his pupils blow wide, watched his whole body start to shake, out of control. You should be thanking me. I stepped back, spreading my hands. Now you don't have to breathe the filthy rich air of my house. You don't have to feel humiliated every time you see me. I'm giving you your dignity back. I tilted my head, fake confused. Why aren't you smiling? Asher's face went whiter than paper. Summer rolled around. I started interning at my dad's company, reporting to HR the day after classes ended. News about Asher kept trickling in, through classmates, through my friends. He'd sold the watch I'd given him at a second-hand luxury store. He was begging everyone he knew for co-signed loans, scrounging up tuition money however he could. He was even sucking up to people he'd once looked down on. I heard it all and just laughed. What I didn't expect was that after everything I'd said, after how hard I'd shut him down, he'd still show up at my door, with his mom. He looked different. Stuck worrying about money again, he wasn't the cool, untouchable campus heartthrob anymore. His hair was messy, there were dark circles under his eyes, his clothes were wrinkled like he'd slept in them. Maggie started crying the second she saw me. She grabbed my hands, her voice shaking. Lila, honey, I'm begging you. Don't ruin him. I pulled my hands back gently, looking at her calmly. Maggie, Asher's a proud man. Giving him money would only hurt him. Maggie froze, like she hadn't expected that answer. That's when Asher, who'd been standing silent this whole time, finally spoke. Proud? Dignity? He laughed, sharp and bitter. He lifted his head, and his eyes, once cold and bright as stars, were bloodshot, wild, staring at me with this terrifying, desperate fury. Layla. His voice was rough, but there was a strange, sure edge to it. You came back too. My heart skipped a beat. I looked up and met his eyes, dark, bitter, burning. What are you talking about? I frowned. Drop the act. He smiled, twisted and ugly. I came back too. My heart started racing. I forced myself to stay calm. Asher, that's crazy. You're not making any sense. Crazy? He laughed low, his eyes going colder and colder. You ruined me once, and now you're gonna ruin me again? Wanna know how I came back? I didn't say anything. He kept going, his voice rising, more and more frantic. I was so careful. After you died, I took such good care of your parents. And they still suspected me. They put me in prison. Ha, ha ha ha. But fate gave me a second chance. But when I woke up, everything was different. He stared at me, every word sharp and biting. You came back to get revenge on me, didn't you? I stepped back, forcing down my panic, and kept my face steady. Maggie, he's not well. Take him to a doctor, please. Maggie was panicking too. She tugged on Asher's sleeve, her voice trembling. Asher, baby, you're scaring me. He rambled on, wild-eyed. Maggie tried to pull him away, but he shoved her off hard. Asher, calm down. I said, trying to sound steady even as my heart hammered. Calm down? How am I supposed to calm down? His eyes were red, his voice venomous. You destroyed everything I had. How am I supposed to calm down? Admit it, Layla. You came back to crush me, to throw me back in the dirt. I stood up sharply, stepping toward Maggie. Maggie, take him home. Now. He's not in his right mind. He needs help. Home? He snarled. We're all going to hell together. He roared, and his hand flew to his pocket. A flash of silver. I didn't even have time to process what it was before something slammed into me from the side. Maggie had thrown herself at me, shoving me out of the way with all her strength. Schlick. The sound of a blade sinking into flesh. Time stood still. Asher froze. The wild look on his face froze too. He stared down at his hand, confused. The fruit knife he was holding was buried almost to the hilt in Maggie's chest. Maggie opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but only blood bubbled out. She looked at Asher, no anger in her eyes, only endless sadness and pleading. Then she crumpled to the floor. Noem. Asher screamed, a raw, inhuman sound. He let go of the knife and scrambled to press down on the wound, but blood poured out anyway, soaking his hands and clothes, warm and sticky. I ran for the door while he was distracted, calling the police. Asher chased after me, but the security guards got there just in time and tackled him to the ground. His face pressed into the cold floor, but his eyes were still locked on me, spitting curses. Tears and snot and blood streaked down his face. That cool, golden boy facade was completely gone. All that was left was the ugly, rabid thing underneath. By the time they loaded Maggie into the ambulance, she was gone. My parents crowded around me, the police all around. I watched as Asher, covered in blood, limp as a dead dog, was dragged to the police car by 2 officers. It's okay, Lila. You're safe now. It's over. I hugged my mom, who was shaking so bad she could barely stand, and rested my head on her shoulder. Yeah, Mom. It's over. From now on, I'd stay right here with them. I'd take care of them. A year later, Asher was found guilty of first-degree murder. The judge handed down life imprisonment without parole. Asher didn't appeal. I was a little annoyed it wasn't the death penalty, but there was nothing I could do about it. Walking out of the courthouse, I hoped with everything I had that Asher would die in prison, just like he did last time. That he'd never get out to hurt anyone ever again. Though maybe, for someone who remembered his old life of wealth and privilege, spending every day in prison rotting over what he'd lost was worse than death.